My goal for you is to honestly get slightly better every single day, because I believe that it's not the big things that amount to the biggest changes in life, but it's actually the small things that you do over time which have the biggest impact. Deep work is a state of peak concentration which allows you to learn hard things and create quality work quickly. That is the overall definition of deep work, and in this video I'm going to teach you how you can get into deep work, because I want you to get your time back. I want you to get your time and your freedom back, and that is why I do deep work. That is why I love doing these practices, and that's why I want to share it with you. At the end of the day, whether you love your work and you're so obsessed with it, you might not want to spend all day doing it, and your work might require you to be on your screen, on your phone, on your laptop for hours on end, and that might not be something you want to do in the summer. That might not be something you want to do every day. So if we can embody deep work, then we can actually reduce the time that we are working so that we can spend time doing other things or doing more active things, creative things, rather than that deep focus work which requires a lot of brain power. The best feeling is completing a goal quicker than you thought you would, but the sad reality is that this hardly ever happens. We hardly complete goals that we've set ourselves actually quicker than we ever even thought that we would, but deep work allows you to actually do that, and that is how I was able to complete goals quicker than I ever thought I would last year. I also love the quote that we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10 years. We always try to set ourselves huge milestones at the start of each year, but then over 10 years is when the real change happens. Just a quick little reminder there. If you have read a book like 4 Hour Work Week or listened to people like Dan Coe, then you will be very familiar with deep focus and deep work and really enhancing your presence. By the way, this is one of my full guide videos, so all of the chapters are linked below if you want to find a specific section. I am definitely into deep focus and deep fun right now. I'm testing this phase in life to see if I can do deep focus work, and then I can also be very, very present with my friends and with my family when I'm having fun. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I think the deep fun is actually the biggest challenge for me right now, because the deep work and the deep focus, I think I've really got that unlocked, and that is why I'm sharing with you how I have been able to focus for hours and hours on end. Now, I'm not saying that that is the goal, to be able to sit for hours on end and focus, but the goal is to be able to sit and concentrate and actually get a task done. Because most you listening right now, you might not be able to do just that, just sitting, concentrating and getting a task done. But if you can do that, you will progress so much quicker. Before we start taking action on anything, we need to understand why we're doing it, why we're taking action. We need to fully believe in it. So first of all, I want you to believe in deep work, and I want you to believe that it's going to give you time back, and it's going to give you the freedom that you desire, and it's going to make your work 5, 10, 100 times better. Because if you believe these facts to be true, it's going to be so much easier to implement deep work into your life. So for example, with my work, I have an agency, I have an influencer marketing agency. This requires me to spend a lot of time on my laptop writing emails, but I don't want to spend all my days on my laptop writing emails, right? So if I can get that work done quicker and do it in a deep focus state, then I'm going to have more time to do other things like record these videos, script these videos, or spend time outside in nature, spend more time in the gym, go to different classes. Recently, I have been loving this, and I have been getting most of my tasks done by like 12 or 1 o'clock and starting really, really early, around 7, 8 a.m. because summer is coming, and honestly, the mornings are when I am most productive, the mornings are when I get the most done, and I have like the rest of the day to do other things that require less focus and less like brain power, like editing this video, for example. So it really does give you your time back. And that is my why behind the deep work. And that is also me understanding that this deep work is serving me. This deep work is serving my life. So how will deep work serve your life and make your life better? And just start to think about that, and start to think about, yeah, if I did implement deep work, then my life would be so much better because I could put more work into this and that and this. And just a quick fact, if you don't fully believe in deep work, us humans can only focus for around 4 hours per day on average. And that is focus. That is like highly concentrated work for 4 hours a day. If you actually try this, it's so true, because ever since knowing this fact, I can tell so much when my concentration starts to dip, and it's usually after 3 or 4 hours. If I am writing for 3 or 4 hours in that deep focus state, that's all I can get out of my day, and I love it. I'm so glad I learned this fact, because then it also gives me so much time back. I'm like, oh, okay, so now I can do creative things. After those 4 hours of deep focus, I can do creative things. So now you understand a little bit more about the mindset behind deep focus and what exactly it is and how it will drastically improve your life. I'm going to get into the steps of achieving deep focus. Step 1 is preparation. I'm sorry, but the quote my dad always used to tell me, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. It's so true with anything in life. If you aren't preparing for your deep focus and your deep work, you are not going to succeed with it. Now, preparation comes in many ways, but the best preparation that I can do for me is reminding myself of my big goals and my why. I do this every single morning. I've said this in my journal videos, I've said this in multiple videos in the past, but I have a morning routine that reminds me of my why and my big goals. The reason why this is preparing you to do deep work is because when you remind yourself why you're doing something and the bigger reason why you do something, then it's going to be so much easier to work towards it. It's going to be so much easier to put those grueling hours into it because you have a strong why. So the preparation for your deep work needs to be your why. Why are you doing this deep work? What is it contributing towards? How is it getting closer to your dreams, your goals, your financial goals, your family goals, your friendship goals? How is it bringing you closer if you do this deep work? Because when I wake up in the morning, I remind myself of my goals, I remind myself of my why. I want to do the deep work. And we have to want to do the work, because it's so much harder to achieve anything and do anything if you don't truly want it, if you don't truly see the point behind why you're doing it, and if you don't truly want that to be a thing in your life. Come up with a system, a morning routine that reminds you of why you're doing it, that reminds you of the bigger picture, that reminds you that if you do this work, that you will achieve that goal. Part of the preparation stage is, of course, setting up your systems. Setting up your laptop, removing distractions, setting up your workspace. So this is removing any resistance you might have to deep work. So do you have a place where you can actually work, where you can actually remove distractions and have a place where you can sit and not get distracted by your surroundings, but also not have people call you, not have people walk in, not have people scream your name, things like that. Obviously, I understand that if you're working from home, that might be harder. If you're in an office, that can also be hard. But how can you try to set boundaries and systems and remove resistance from the work to make sure that your deep work can just flow, that you can just flow into your deep work and no one's going to pull you out of it? Because being in a true state of deep work means that it takes time to get in and it also takes time to get out. It's not a multitask. We're not switching from task to task, but we're deeply getting into the work. And then if someone takes us out, it takes us time to get deeply into the work again. Personally, this is why deep work is a great way for me to live, because I find it so hard to have balance in life. I don't know if you are like me, I'm not sure why I'm like this, but I find it very hard to balance working and playing and then chilling and working and having just a nice 50-50 sometimes. I'm either hardcore in the work or hardcore in the play. So that's why if I'm implementing deep work rather than dipping in and out and multitasking, then I can make sure that I'm still getting everything that I want to get done, and then I still have time to actually be present and enjoy my free time. My step number 3 is the work that you are actually doing. Now, before we go into strategies like Pomodoro, setting yourself timers, using music, etc., etc., I want to ask you about the work that you are doing. Does it mean enough to you? Does it mean enough for you to be putting hours in every single day? Because if it doesn't feel meaningful, and especially, I'm going to say, especially if you are a woman, if your work doesn't feel meaningful and purposeful to you, then it's going to be so much harder to do it, and there's going to be so much more resistance, and there's just going to be a bigger barrier to entry to actually doing it. So make sure that you are aware of the work that you're doing, you are aware of your why, and you have your systems in place. You have a nice setting where you can do the work. For example, again, with me and my business, I absolutely love the why behind my business. I started it because it has a strong why, it has a strong mission, and if it didn't have that, then I think I would struggle to work on it every single day, because I'm such a person who leads with like purpose and leads with a mission, that if my business wasn't very mission driven, I would find it very hard to do that deep work because I wouldn't see the point in it. So that also might be something to consider if you're feeling a lot of resistance to the work that you are trying to do, or to your job, to your career, to your studies, anything. Let's go into these strategies and how to implement deep work. As I said, it's a state of focus. It's a state of focusing on a task at hand and not multitasking. But this doesn't mean that we can't take breaks. I don't mean that you have to focus for 4 hours straight, but I mean that you have 4 hours of focus hours in the day typically. So how can we use those hours to the best to get the most out of those hours? Now, the first technique I want to share is the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique is a time management method based on 25-minute stretches of focused work broken by 5-minute breaks. Now, you can split this up however you like, but I love using the Pomodoro technique, and I actually pair the Pomodoro technique with music. So I usually do 20-minute bursts of work to a soundtrack that lasts for 20 minutes. And when that soundtrack is over, I know that my time is over and I get to take a break. Now, sometimes I want to break, sometimes I'm in that deep work and I'm in that flow state, and I will continue. But setting yourself timer just makes the barrier to entry very low. You can set yourself a 5-minute timer. I've heard people like Ali Abdaal talk about this technique and it works so well. Set yourself a 3-minute timer, a 5-minute timer, and just say, I'm just going to start this task. I only have to do it for 3 minutes and then I can stop. 3 minutes is nothing. Or I only have to do it for 5 minutes and then I can stop. Because it's most likely that once you've started, once the timer goes off after 3 minutes, after 5 minutes, you're going to want to continue because you've already started. And this is a great hack to get you started and get you into that deep work. Because you know, sometimes you might not want to get into it, but just that first initial push is what you have to break through, and then you're there. Another strategy of getting into deep work is something that I heard Andrew Huberman talk about in his episode all about focus, and I think it was his episode actually on goal setting. He mentioned a technique using your visuals and using your eyesight. So if you look at something that is the same distance away than your laptop screen, look at something like a pen, the tip of a pen, that's the same distance on your laptop screen. Focus your eyes on that for like 20-30 seconds. Really focus your eyes on that, because your eyes adjust, you know, your focus point adjusts depending on what you're looking at. So look at something that has the same distance as your laptop screen, focus your eyes, and then your eyes will adjust to be focused on your laptop screen, for example, on your computer screen. Because he said that most of the time it's our eyes that are actually pulling us out of focus, and this is a hack to get you into that focus state. I'm also going to leave that podcast episode below because it was incredible for hacks on getting into deep work and getting the most done out of your day. Deadlines. Now, the hardest thing about running your own business, if that's why you are doing deep work, is deadlines. So if there is something that you need to get done but there is no deadline, set an imaginary deadline, because it's going to be much easier to actually get that thing done, and then you can do it in your deep focus hours. This just gives you a deadline and gives you more of a reason to start it and more of a reason to get it done. So create imaginary deadlines for yourself, and that is just a productivity hack on how to get things done quicker. Because as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, most of the time we don't get our goals done quicker because we have no urgency. We have no deadlines. We are just like soaring through, like, yes, that will get done, or yes, that's a goal of mine, but there's no rush. When sometimes it's good to have a little bit of rush, a little bit of a push, so that you can actually get to your goals quicker than you ever even thought that you would. Using music to enhance your focus. Now, there are some studies that prove that music can actually enhance your focus. but it's totally down to personal preference. Some people really struggle to listen to music when they're writing. Some people can listen to music when they're reading. I am not someone who can listen to music when I'm reading. I am then just focusing on the lyrics, literally. But when I'm writing, I love listening to music. Non-lyrical music, mostly. I usually like to listen to a focus playlist on Spotify, or I like to listen to handpan. I absolutely love listening to handpan music, especially when I'm doing focus work. That just really, it like wires my brain into focus mode. And the more that you listen to the same music when you're doing certain tasks, then that cue of the music will lead you into that task. It's like your ears are already getting prepared to do that task because they've heard that music before, and now they're relating that music to the task that you're doing. And this is what has happened to me with handpan. So sometimes I will listen to it to relax, sometimes I will listen to it to get into a deep state, but I also have my focus playlist, and when they're on, I'm automatically like, my brain is like, where's the laptop? Where are we writing? What are we doing? You know, so use music as a cue. It's not a visual cue, it's not a vocal cue, it's like a hearing cue. What's the word for it? But use music as your cue. I really want you to try deep focus. If you are feeling motivated right now to actually try it and actually try to achieve your goals even faster, if you have set yourself goals for the end of this year and you think that if you just focus that little bit more, if you put more time and energy into your tasks every single day, then you could get there faster, then I want you to do that right now. Strike whilst the momentum is high. I always say this because usually after watching a video, after listening to a podcast, your momentum is high. After going to the gym, your momentum is high. That's when you do a healthy food shop. This is when you take action. This is when you plan out your goals. This is when you plan your next day. This is when you plan your next week. When your momentum is high and you're feeling that motivation, you're feeling that discipline to really better yourself. So now figure out, when can you have your next deep focus or deep work? Can you have it after this video? Can you have it tomorrow when the new week starts? When can you implement deep work so that you can get to your goals faster, so that you can get there quicker, so that you can be one of those people who's like, wow, I set that goal for 6 months, I achieved it in 5. I set that goal for 1 year, I achieved it in 9 months. Like, how can you be that person? Remember, think of the why behind what you're doing. Come up with systems to remind you of that why every single day so that your work becomes so much easier. And don't forget to enjoy the process. That is the most important thing. I heard Ali Abdaal, again, I watch a lot of his content, say something about goals recently, and it was the fact that your goals really create your life, because whatever your goal is determines how you are spending every single day. This determines what time you wake up. This determines the work that you do, the fitness regime that you follow. Whatever your goal is, it literally creates your life because it creates your days. So choose your goals wisely and don't forget to enjoy the process of actually pursuing them. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I have a slightly better letter, which is a newsletter that I send out, and it's all about just becoming slightly better every single day. So I will see you in there. Have a beautiful day, week, month, life. Bye.